Hello, Earth Science students. I just wanted to give you a tutorial on how to make your graph for the tidal data for Long Beach, New York, for that assignment. Hopefully you have read 16.2 and have some background information about tides. Specifically, make sure that you know the vocabulary terms so that you can answer the questions for this assignment. But here goes. You should have this document up. Um, what I've done, just to let you know, and that's why I have it split screen here, is I've taken each day and I've converted um, the time into a decimal point. So this title is actually wrong, so you should change it. So I'll just click it one more time just so you can see it. You should type in the day and then in parentheses, you should type in the time within that day. So this would be 1.25 days into the cycle, and it's a 1 month cycle. So if you scroll down to the bottom of this data, you will notice that it goes up to 31.75 days. So a little bit more than a full month. And then on the right column, so that's going to be your x-axis. On the right column, you have tide height. So with this, I've just converted the tide height and I directly, as you can see in here in the PDF, I've just directly written that there. So in the future, I will have another tutorial on how to convert these values into these decimal points right here. But for now, just use this data so that you can graph it. Okay, so I'm going to expand this window just so that we're looking at just the data. So now, if you have all of your data in here and you don't have any extra numbers, all you have to do once you, again, just to recap, once you've changed this to day and time, what you should do is insert a chart. You don't need to highlight anything. You just click Insert Chart, and it will actually create a chart with the information that you want. I usually move it over to the side so I can keep looking at the data. So then you want to check your X and Y axis. So I have day and then the time within that day. So it goes from 0 to a little bit past 30 days, so about a month. And you notice there are some gaps, just like in real life. Sometimes the machines that calculate tide height they malfunction or they don't work. So that's why you have some gaps here. Um, and then on the y-axis, you want to make sure that it says tide height, just like it says there. So the last step for this is to create a very descriptive title. You don't want to leave it like this. So you would delete that. So again, I'll just show that again. You double click it to allow you to type in it, and then you delete it. Okay. So a descriptive title would be actually the title of the assignment, which is title data for Long Beach, New York. I would put a comma there, New York, for the specific time of January 2003. And I want you to pay attention to when you answer the 5 questions. Pay attention to what happens to the tide. So ask yourself, what does it mean when the tide is below 0? Does that mean that it sinks into the sand, or does that mean something else? Remember, this is tide height. And then you'll notice that as the days go on in the month, you have a dip here, and then it comes back up, and then you have a smaller dip here, and then it goes back up. And so pay attention to that. Also pay attention to how many high and low tides are within one day. If this is hard to read, again, you have your data here. So for day 1, you have this data right here, and I'll highlight it for you. So within one day, you have a high tide, another high tide. So you have 2 high tides and 1 low tide. On day 2, if you highlight the data, you have 2 low tides, negative -0.5 and negative -0.8, and then you have 2 high tides, 5.6 and 4.4. So that's how you want to do your analysis if it's hard to read this graph. This graph just kind of shows the trend throughout the month. Again, make sure you look at trends within the day and within the entire month. All right. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me. And that's a wrap.